Hey YouTube, it's me again, Daniel. If you're like me, you're dreaming about quitting your 9 to 5 basically on a daily basis, and today I want to share 5 actionable steps with you that I hope will help you achieve that dream of reaching financial independence a little faster. They certainly help me. So stay tuned, stick around, and we'll look at the 5 steps right away. Step number 1. You need to get a very clear picture of where you stand financially. I talked about it in my earlier video as well, which you can look at here if you want. That means you have to track your income, expenses, and debts and assets really well. At least on a monthly basis, better even weekly basis. I do it on a monthly basis and that's fine, but I will quickly show you what this looks like for me. This is the totals sheet here for 2024, for example. I got all my expenses, income, investments, that is mainly what is after tax investments. Whatever I put into my 401k does not show up on this. Also, a health savings account does not show up on this. That gives me a surplus each month. And then I have all my expenses, mortgage, bills, your groceries, food and drinks, shopping, Amazon, whatever, travel, what we spend, and so on and so on. You can do your own categories as you like. And then I have a few KPIs here, and that's what I like about Excel. Like, you can basically do whatever you want. And then here I got a graph of what my expenses look like. So 30% of all of my expenses are allocated to mortgage, taxes, insurance, etc. And this is for the entirety of 2024. Then I do the same for my LLC, and I do this basically here since 2022. So every year I add to it. Same with here the total sheet. And then I have every month. So every month, all I need to do now is use my go into my Chase checking account, take my statements, copy paste them in here, and then I do the same for my credit cards, and I do the same for my business. Here, this is on the business side, so this is my business LLC checking account, my business credit card, and everything gets allocated automatically because I have some neat rules in here. So for example, mortgage it's a bunch of sum ifs. So if it's like here, Rocket Mortgage, PennyMac, United Wholesale, so all of the mortgages that I used to have or still have get summed in here automatically if there is a statement that I basically tell it what it is. So here you see Rocket Mortgage, Flagstar Bank, PennyMac, United Wholesale. These are my mortgage payments for my LLC every month, and it automatically gets added in here. So this is how I do it. I like the autonomy and I like Excel, so it's been good for me. As you see, we're projected to spend about $48,000 this year, which is basically exactly $4,000 per month. We had a high spending January still. In March here, for example, I bought a flight ticket to Germany, $900. So it gives you a good idea of where your spending level is and where your income is. But again, if that Excel sheet is a little bit too much work, do it via one of those apps. I think they categorize your expenses automatically. As long as you get started, that is really the most important part. You need to understand where every dollar goes if you wanna be successful on that journey in any meaningful time frame. Which brings us to step number 2. Step number 2 is called cut unnecessary expenses. And before we go there, I want to do a quick detour to the 4% rule. Some of you guys might know what it is, but essentially it's based on a Trinity study, and if you Google that, you'll find out a little bit more about it. But it says that 4% is roughly the safe withdrawal rate if you have all your assets or equity essentially invested in a total stock market fund like VTSAX from Vanguard, for example. On an annualized basis, even with bad times over a long period of time, it's projected to growth by like 7% on average, maybe 8, maybe 9 sometimes. Whatever it is, the 4% of this is the safe withdrawal rate over a long period of time, and that means that your nest egg over the long run again will never approach 0 with a very high success rate. Again, you can look into it. It's a very good guideline, let's call it that. It's just a guideline. And that means that whatever spending you have per year, if it's, for example, $40,000, that is your spending level, you need 25 times that invested, because 1 divided by 4% is 25. Let me make sure that this is true. That is true. So 1 divided by 4% is 25. That means you need to multiply your spending by a factor of 25, and that would be the amount you need invested to spend 4% of that invested nest egg every year. So if your spending level is $40,000 times 25, that is 1 million. That means you need $1 million invested in an index fund to be able to spend $40,000 every year safely. That quick detour helps us understand why cutting expenses is so important. Once you did your budgeting right, you will hopefully identify areas of unnecessary spending. And this is important to really cut that. Just an example, if you can save $20 a day, $20 every day, so I'll whip out my calculator here, $20 per day times 7 days is $140, times 52 weeks is $7,280. That is the amount of spending that you're cutting per year if you can save just $20 per day. Again, coming back to the 4% rule that we talked about, you need to multiply this by 25, and that gives you the amount that you need invested to cover this amount of spending. So $7,280 times 25 is $182,000. That means for $20 of extra discretionary spending each day, you need to save $182,000 extra that you have invested in like an index fund if you want to reach financial independence through index fund investing, for example. So $182,000 just like that gone, essentially, that you wouldn't need to have invested. And that is why cutting expenses is so important. So my wife and I, for example, we were living in Royal Oak, which is a relatively expensive suburb of Detroit. And me and my roommate, we were paying $2,500 in rent for that house. So that was $1,250 plus utilities, etc., for each of us. And then as soon as we found out about financial independence, I wanted to buy a house that is cheaper myself. So you can read the full story in my blog, but essentially after buying a house, fixing it up a little bit, we were able to cut our rent payments from the $1,250 down to $800, and that we shared divided by 2 essentially between me and my wife, so $400 per person. So from a $1,250 expense per month, I went down to roughly $400 on top of building equity, on top of raising the value of the house through forced appreciation, because we did all the work to it ourselves. And that we've done multiple times. So look at your spending and see, is this something that you really need? Of course, the biggest ticket items are the ones that you should look at first, which is housing, because that's usually the biggest item that you pay for each month, is my guess, be it mortgage or rent, etc. Look at your bills, look at your subscriptions, what can you cut? If you go to work and get lunch every single day, that could be another $15, $20 saved every day essentially of the week. See if you can cut anything. Can you bring your own lunch to work? But you really need to get creative potentially with cutting your expenses. But every dollar will go so much further because you're spending post-tax money. And like I mentioned, every dollar spent times 25 is what you need to have invested if you want to have that amount later on in discretionary spending. Which brings me to step number 3, and that is to increase your income. Here you should consider starting a side hustle, cutting grass, getting into entrepreneurship. For side hustles, in my opinion, it's important to look where are your personal strengths. Is there something you could teach? Is there something that you can offer freelancing service? If you already have like a relatively high paying job, for me in engineering later in the years, see if you can pursue promotions. At work, try to give your best all the time essentially, and make sure, and that's really important, make sure that your management and upper management sees it. So bring yourself out there, see if you can go the extra mile, because what I've realized is that most people just really do the bare minimum and they will get small promotions. For me, later in the years, because I put in so much extra work, my promotions crept up pretty consistently. Usually I got 2 raises per year, and that could increase your income quite a bit. So basically, one tip there would be to meet at the beginning of the year with your boss and write out significant and concrete goals about what you want to achieve this year and what an exceeds expectations really looks like, so that after a few months, when you revisit those goals with your boss, you can really show him, here's where I exceeded my expectations. This is the raise, for example, that we agreed upon. And if the company is really bad at giving raises, then see if you can go somewhere else. Studies have shown that people who job hop every 2 to 3 years can increase their income significantly. So maybe it's time to cut ties with your current company and go somewhere else. Furthermore, and what I have found to be really invaluable is to invest in your own education. For me, that's reading books. I hope you like to read books as well, because there's so many great ones out there. If you want the list of my favorite books, just take a look at my blog. There's a blog post that I made. I will link to it below, where I outline all the books that helped me the most over the years of the 100 or over 100 that I've read. And lastly, again, the wealth builder that has helped us the most to reach financial independence is to get into real estate. If you're currently renting, see if you can buy a house, and I would recommend to never go for a house that is fully fixed up. See if you can find something that's been sitting on the market for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, where people are starting to drop the price, that needs work, needs sweat equity. You can literally learn anything, how to fix anything on YouTube. It's absolutely amazing. And my wife and I, we've done it for the past 4 years. We fixed up 8 houses total, basically just between the two of us, which saved us a ton of money in contractors, especially early on when we were really trying to conserve cash. And it's been honestly a very, very fun journey. So I highly recommend it. Buy something that needs work and put in that sweat equity yourself, because you will get a much, much better deal. And with a little bit of extra effort, a little bit of extra money, you will be able to raise the value of that real estate, that piece of property, pretty significantly. So I highly recommend it. Which brings me to step number 4, and that is to make your savings, your money work for you. You have to start investing, and you have to invest wisely. There's the slow way and there's a little bit of faster way. I quickly touched base on it earlier with the 4% rule. If you are somebody who makes a pretty decent living with their job, I recommend just putting post-tax money into different accounts, investment accounts that is. For example, with Vanguard, get into a VTSAX, Total Stock Market Index Fund, and just over the long run, watch your money grow. Put a set amount of money every month before you even have the chance to spend it, like every month, maybe $1,000, $2,000 if you can afford it. Put it into post-tax investments and let that money grow. Eventually, the 4% rule will be kind to you. So when you have 500,000, for example, in that account at some point, you will be able to live on 20,000 of this passively for the rest of your life, essentially, which is pretty nice. But because real estate was such a big help for my wife and I have to plug that, of course. I think it's a very, very powerful investment, and statistics show that most millionaires in the US are made through real estate, and I think that still holds true today. So my advice there would be, look in the best areas that you can afford, but buy by far the ugliest house on the block. Again, that comes back to, you need to put in that sweat equity. You really want to find a deal when it comes to it. You want to buy the houses that many people don't look at, that are too ugly, that need too much work. See if you can find something with an outdated kitchen, outdated bathroom, that needs paint, a little bit of patching. Things like this are really easy to do yourself, even with a few YouTube videos and probably a few months of work that you would have to put in, but it is so worth it in the end. You will be able to refinance, probably get your entire down payment out, like we have done so many times, and roll those proceeds into multiple houses again in the future. So again, try to buy in the best areas that you can, because in the long run, appreciation will be much better. You will have much less headaches with tenants if you ever want to rent it out. Try to get yourself some roommates. There is something that is called house hacking, which means you buy for example, a 3 or 4 bedroom house, and you rent out 3 of those bedrooms to friends, colleagues, whoever else you can find. And essentially that should be able to cover your entire mortgage payment. There's many books on that. which I also recommend again down in my blog. So if you want to read about it or if you have any questions, write a comment and I'm happy to help you out. And step number 5 is to stay consistent and motivated. The journey to financial independence is usually a very long one. For us, it was 4 years of literally nonstop work. Every day after work, we went back to work, we fixed up a house, we basically had no weekends to do anything else. That was kind of the fast track journey, and I still didn't quit my job because I wanna get that extra cushion in the next couple of years or so. So it is a journey for the long haul, but it is a journey that is so worthwhile, because if you start now, if you're 20 or 30, and you can reach this within 10 or 15 years, you will be miles ahead of mostly everybody else who plans to work maybe their entire lives, or at least until like 65, 67 years old. And that means you need to find the motivation for the long run. Keep reviewing your budgets every month. See if all the spending was really necessary, and before you buy the next big thing or even small thing, Starbucks coffee, see, is it really necessary? Is there a cheaper way that you can live because you have that long-term goal in mind of reaching financial independence? And really every dollar you spend in the long run will make a large difference, like we've seen. Personally also, I found community to be a big factor here. You probably won't find that community at your W2 job. I found that community in books and podcasts that I listen to all the way when I drive to work. Sometimes I have my headphones in at work and I listen to podcasts. But if you immerse yourself in the financial independence space all the time, you will become a lot more conscious with the bigger goal in mind that you will be able to buy back your freedom in the long run. Lastly, remember that reaching FI is not necessarily rocket science. The steps, as you can see, are pretty easy. The execution of such is really hard work and requires that consistency. So try to stay motivated in the long run. Let me know if any of these were helpful or what else you would like to see in the future. Leave a comment below, or if you're looking for a community, reach out to me personally. You'll find my email on my blog, and yeah, we can stay in touch. I'd be happy to help you out. Otherwise, I thank you very much for watching. If you want to learn more about me, click this video right here. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Take care.